Ladies and gentlemen, today we are reviewing a set of documents that were just sent to us. We've been working all day on verifying the validity of what we have here. What we have here is the culmination of a multiple week investigation at the heart of the Kraut team. We've had a scientist who has gained the trust of Kraut, who's been very close to him within the last few weeks, and who's bringing us recordings of Kraut acting in the private sphere in ways that are completely contradictory to what he's been stating on the public space. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we reveal that Kraut is a racist. He is a man who despises French people, who despises the French race, and who is determined into pursuing the past military invasions of France. He is a German neo-colonialist, a racist, who calls my people frogs. And so today I'm launching a campaign on the internet. Hashtag I'm with the frog. Stand with me against the racism of Kraut. Kraut, stop being such an hypocrite. We have the recordings. We have the documents. And you are about to be exposed. Trigger warning for all the people who are listening to this. If you are sensitive to racialized hate and racial statements and racial slurs, please stop this video right now. It is not our intent by publishing this to be encouraging any form of hate against the French people. We are publishing this for the journalistic purpose of reporting the truth about Kraut, and I apologize for what you are about to hear. So, one of the results of the investigation indicates that Kraut is currently collaborating with the New York Times to make an articles in the New York Times against the alt-right. The journalist with whom they are collaborating is named Amy. So on that point, I will say, Amy at the New York Times, don't make an article based on what you hear on the Kraut server. Be a little more thorough in your pursuit of the truth. Why don't you come see Papa JF? I'm going to tell you what's the position of race realism. Don't listen to what the Kraut sycophants are saying about the alt-right. Kraut has made this error. Don't make it yourself. New York Times, you promised after the Trump election that you would be more objective. Stop doing research with Kraut's friends and come see Papa JF. He's going to explain what is the current position in the alt-right. I think it's pretty unfair to be leaving a voice only to the people who are on the Kraut team on the subject of the alt-right. They have proven in the past that they're wrong. So Amy, it's an open invitation. Just come and see JF. As far as what the investigation has revealed, well, first we have a couple. First, what's happening currently in the Kraut Discord servers, because this is all happening on a set of secret servers that are set up by Kraut to investigate the alt-right, is that Kraut has a plan. He has racial intentions against the French people, and he has a plan to attack me. So let's hear a little bit of the audios that were leaked. Did he just use epigenetics research again?
Oh, I used the wrong word. Fuck you, Frenchman. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Ability. Chapter 10, one of the biggest and most detailed.
Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Because right now, JF is the king of alt-right race realism. He, like, every time I upload a video, they have no arguments. They just whine the same thing until JF uploads a stream.
Okay.
It's like,
but I mean, they're not being intellectually honest about the whole thing, so I mean, they're never going to concede, are they?
No, but it's essential to keep appearances, I guess, to a certain extreme, because we're not just here to tell the truth. We also have to keep appearances, and part of the appearances is we have to eventually give this guy a knockout blow to the fucking face. That's a meme.
Remember, these people think they have the moral high ground.
Yeah, of course. I think they're the good guys.
They don't think they have the moral high ground. I have a feeling I'm dealing with people who often know what they're saying is wrong, but keep pushing it because they think that if they repeat it often enough, people will start believing it.
Oh, you mean a Nazi?
Jean-François Garipier is about to get his ass handed to him. And it's going to be fucking amazing because it's going to be done by some of the most well-known and credentialed scientists of this YouTube community.
When can we expect the reckoning?
This one, I cannot stop laughing. When can we expect the reckoning there? Let's rewatch it.
Be done by some of the most well-known and credentialed scientists of this YouTube community.
When can we expect the reckoning?
Within the next 2 weeks. Like, I've
Also,
put so much effort and organization into this.
So now, what's happening is that Kraut has established a team of YouTubers who will all release videos coordinated against me in some sort of scheduled manner, and this is all being scheduled by Sandre the scientist. Let's hear him.
Oh yeah, of course. You got to keep in mind, when it comes to this whole JF project, I mean, this is going to take...
It's the JF project. I love it.
A long time to get into motion. I mean, right now we're just sort of making a recording where we are responding live because we want to have some kind of skeleton for a future video. But yeah, this is, I mean, the end result. We're also talking about the possibility that maybe we could also just write down the main points that we want to counter him with. And then we could do a long live stream with, the big hitters like Thunderfoot, Concordance.
The big hitters like Thunderfoot and Concordance. You just cannot make this up. This is not a fiction work. These are actual people. Oh my god. I wouldn't write better humor than these guys. Really. The big hitters.
Let's see now, other YouTubers maybe, and we could just use the points that we've written down and also do it that way too. We don't know, but if we go for a longer format video, we will use this recording, for instance, as a skeleton. So this is just a recording to make sure that we have all the points in the video, and then we just, quickly rewatch it like 3 times the speed, and then just write down the paragraph into small paragraphs, the main points.
I guess what I was saying is, I got a duck out, so I guess this information will be available from you guys later on at some point, right?
Oh yeah, again, when it comes to this whole JF, because first, actually, if you look in rules and announcements, you see the schedule for which video is going to be out first, and the first one coming is actually the Justicar response, and Kraut doesn't have anything to do with that at all. It's going to be me. He's just going to mirror it on his channel, though. And then we have Kraut's video, Sociology is Not Biology. And after that, we have the next response to All Type. And after that, we're going to respond to JF. And, it's just because JF puts out so much material to go through that it's going to take a while.
Oh my god. What
Sandra, was that... Did you say you were working on a response to Jessica?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to take part in that, Kraut Demon?
I'm not really sure what I could contribute, to be honest, but I can take a look for sure.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, if I can, sure, I'd love to.
Now, one thing that we noticed by looking at the recording is that, you know, when I challenged them in the last Kraut video, I challenged them to find a single geneticist, a professor in genetics, who would state that molecular genetics is essential to determine heritability, that twin studies do not suffice. They think it's gonna be easy. They think they're gonna find one. Look at this.
This guy is a fucking moron.
Wait a second.
Now
Does he live in
decides
an
to be
English majority
autistic
country?
about.
Yep.
What the fuck? What? Jesus fucking Christ! His English is fucking terrible, and that's something coming from me. Fuck's sake.
Yeah, but by the way, look, it's not going to be very hard to find any PhD scientist in genetics to say what he's asking us to find. You know, like this guy really is a moron. Like, all we need to do is just to find a geneticist to say this.
Yeah. Good luck.
Before,
You know?
before, in a similar fashion, I can find a lot of. I can just get emails from fucking senior professors or lecturers that can tell you shit about heritability and why it's a bit.
Yeah, guys, all we need to do is to find a professor who's able to say shit about heritability. Oh my god. Now, one thing that Kraut is really desperate about is the length of my videos. Oh no, we're not gonna have to address a 3 hours long critique of us. Yeah, Kraut, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, here's the thing. Look.
Hardly a point.
We're 7 minutes in, and this is a 3 hour and 10-minute video.
Kraut is done at 7 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's JF.
Yeah, how the fuck do we respond to all of this?
Oh, don't worry about it. We will. We will do it slowly, but we will.
Now, that's the thing. We could be sitting here doing this for hours.
Hours. Yeah, you know the quantity of time that I've spent correcting you? Hours.
This could be...
No. I say we go for another hour and 15 minutes.
Do you guys know how to speed watch things?
Well, we can't, because we have to take every single point he makes and respond to it individually.
3 hours. Oh my god, it's 3
and
hours.
it's
even his scientists are like, oh, 3 hours. Oh my god.
It's 4, 5, 3 hour long live streams. That's our main problem with JF.
That's the main problem with JF. It's the amount of time he spends correcting us.
We have to.
Why do you have to do that?
Why do you think that he do it? He knows it's hard to respond.
No. Why do you have to play that game?
Because right now JF is the king of alt-right race realism. He, like, every time I upload a video, they have no arguments. They just whine the same thing until JF uploads a stream.
Okay.
It's like,
but I mean, they're not being
the king of alt-right race realism, guys. That's what we've ascended into the upper memosphere, bitches. Oh, it feels good to be here. Ugh.
Intellectually honest about the whole thing, so I mean, they're never going to concede, are they?
No, but it's essential to keep appearances, I guess, to a certain extreme, because we're not just here to tell the truth. We also have to keep appearances, and part of the appearance.
See, the truth is not the only thing here. It's the appearance. Do you understand? It makes me think of the video editor in Natural Born Killer, who's like, do you think that the fucking idiots who are listening to us understand anything we're saying? Do you think these zombies care about what's being said there?
Is we have to eventually give this guy a knockout blow to the fucking face.
You know, and then he says, yeah, but you don't need to prove it. Fuck you. Fuck this guy. So, sometimes this guy, wow. Nope. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's... Oh, we have to respond to this idiot.
Gene's dogma.
It's about this important...
You know what he means?
We don't have to.
Gene dogma? Yeah, you do have to respond to me. If you leave someone on the internet nagging you for 3 hours, pointing to all your mistakes, you're gonna get ridiculed until the end of time. So you do have to respond to me. Now, some of you may be wondering, how did Kraut get it wrong when he stated that the results of a certain study were within the margin of error? You know, in one video he said the effects are so small that they must be within the margin of error. Well, here we have the recordings that shows that this actually comes from Sandre. Listen to Sandre defending a wrong view of the margin of error.
The paper says it's in the margins of error?
Yes. No. Listen.
Listen. As I said, the bullshit that I usually say.
Two papers. It's two papers, actually. One original paper and a follow-up paper. And in both papers, they say themselves, the result is equivalent to about 1 month of schooling, or 2%.
And when they report that result, Sandra, it means that it's outside of the margin of error. Now, you guys need to understand, Kraut is currently with Sandra. He's talking to new scientists on his team. One of these scientists being our leaker, the person who brought us these audio recordings. And he's talking to them, and the new scientist is trying to explain to Sandra that he got it wrong with the margin of error. And Sandra is acting all smug, trying to make the case that the results were within the margin of error, when the new scientist is like, no, by the way, you got it wrong, JF is right.
Now, the thing is, when you have such a small result, you have to conclude that's within the margin of error because it's so small.
Yeah, but it depends on the...
See, this new scientist understands what he's talking about. He's like, well, it depends on the sample size you have.
Yeah, no. Listen.
Listen as I say the crap that I've said 10 times. And that's wrong.
Listen. It doesn't matter what your mathematical calculations show.
It doesn't matter what the stats show.
Because if you have a result that's that small, it is too insignificant to say anything which is of any determining factor. And not only that, the main point...
See, he's cutting the other scientist as the other scientist is trying to get him to understand what I've explained to him. In my second or third video, I mean, this is weeks ago. And now they have an actual scientist who's trying to explain to them that I'm correct on the margin of error, and he cuts them. Sandre doesn't want to hear that he's wrong.
Point itself, though, is, and this is a greater point. Yeah, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. We went through these papers with Jajone, and Jajone was very clear about this.
We went through the papers, and he was very clear about it, so you're wrong. We have someone who doesn't even understand what small effects are, what margins of errors are, and even in a private session, he's unable to acknowledge his error. So if you want to look for the origin of the Kraut ego, think about Sandre, the master of puppets behind all this, the one who schedules releases against me, the reckoning of JF. Now, Kraut had a very interesting plan, which is that he noticed that whenever Zabi is intervening in the videos, I'm triggered. And he thought, how about we use the voice of Zabi more to trigger JF?
If I hand in a paper that only has 7 sources, people will look at me and ask...
That's it, I'm triggered.
Is this supposed to be a joke? I will not read it.
I advise you. Okay. Okay, note here. Important note. Use Sabi more often. If Sabi gets under his skin, we have to use Sabi in the response videos to him. If the way Sabi simply speaks, which I find very entertaining and funny, annoys him, then we have to use Sabi more often. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
Source.
I'm triggered. I'll show you the source. But
that's the thing. We noticed that he doesn't like you.
No, I fucking understand, because he like, holy shit, the moment like I talk about dissident views, he fucking talks about kitty cat, lol, come at me, nigger, like.
Oh, Sandre. I mean Zabi. To use the N-word like this is cultural appropriation. Please don't do this. Even in a private room like this, I mean, you're a white Swedish or something. You're a white European. Don't call me an N-word like this. Stop this cultural appropriation, please. And now Kraut continues on his plan to use Zabi to trigger me.
Holy shit! What he says, like, oh, do you have data suggesting that dissident views survive peer review? Has this been researched then? I mean, it's how the scientific model works.
Let's continue.
Yeah.
The next time you show up as a drama queen like this, I'm not showing the source.
Okay.
Little bitch.
Okay.
Smart of you.
I'm gonna skip to
I'll show them what you guys
143
think.
because I really want to see his reaction to Zabi. Sorry, that's a bit petty, but since Zabi is annoyed by him, since Zabi annoys him, it's really interesting for me to see. Okay, it's 144. Let me correct that. I just want to see his reaction. If it's petty, if you think I shouldn't, I'll skip over that. Do you agree? Should we watch his?
No, go ahead.
Watch it.
Okay.
Not just making them up.
If your views are dissident, if your scientists are dissident scientists, as this man so boldly proclaims, and they have...
So Kraut, that's a little dirty from you. I mean, to use an handicapped person like Zabi, who clearly has a voice problem, to trigger me, that's, I mean, I almost want to vomit just thinking about the fact that you may be strategizing about it. I mean, the poor guy has a voice issue. It makes it very unpleasant for people to listen to him. And you're gonna use this to emotionally trigger me? I mean, this is beyond my moral ability, even as a moral nihilist. And I like to think of myself as a tough guy. But Jesus Christ, that is dirty. I mean, to use an handicapped person like this, please have a certain level, like man to man, you and I, we can go on a stream, we can talk about it. You're using someone who has voice problems. I don't even know what to say. Alright, now we can also hear Sandre theorizing about why is JF in alliance with the All-Type?
I find it funny though how All-Type needs this guy JF to sort of be his shield.
Are they really allied? I don't think so.
Is this
No, I mean they are working together. I mean they don't agree entirely on everything, but the thing is, JF, I think he's defending All-Type because he knows. But if he doesn't,
I mean, often you'll see people saying,
then that's gonna make his position look weaker.
It's a subject of debate.
I'm not.
Sorry.
It's okay. I believe you. I'm not so sure what JF's position really is. Is he white ethno-state guy or not?
Kind of equality.
Yeah, he's a race realist.
Now, there's some confusion that Chem Savant 47 had with.
Alright, now, just before we get into the cherry on top of the sundae, which is that we are going to look into the racist comments, and there are many of them, the racist comments of Kraut against the French people. But before we do that, I have compiled a series, because this comes from a 3-hour long voice recording on which Kraut is constantly getting reminded by his team of scientists that JF is right. And so this is just a compilation of some of the best moments. And what you're going to hear is constantly these scientists saying, well, technically, JF is right. And this is hilarious. That you, and your gel is already equipped, or you add at some point.
Is he actually dissecting the part you made?
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's correct about it, because the thing they are showing, that little image, is actually a gel reactor of phoresis. The basic difference is like, I didn't know, I didn't watch the video that we were responding to, so I was like, oh, we do a part on Western blot? Sure, let me do a Western blot.
Right.
I didn't actually watch the video.
Okay.
So, basically, what we are saying is like, oh yeah, we see a thingy, a Western blot, so I explain Western blot, but it's actually gel electrophoresis.
See, Kraut scientists, they are sending him info, but they're not even watching the original video, so they make sure that what they say is correct. That's his fucking scientist team. They don't even look at the final product.
That he's showing.
Well, it's still a fuck up, and he's right.
Yeah, he's correct about it. I should have just watched the entire video and said to you guys, like, oh shit, it's actually
I should have.
But oh well.
Yeah,
I should have.
They can.
I could have.
Yeah.
I should have.
Down to me
I could have.
Sandra and Zabi. I think Zabi was the first one who said that it was a Western blot, and then we.
Yeah, that's not right.
Western blot. Yeah.
All in all, Zabi is a chemist, not a biology man. So next time you have a question like that, please ask an actual biology people.
Okay, that's why we wanted you in here.
Very interesting. So my hypothesis about what he was saying was
All right, stop.
correct. Now,
would anyone be willing to explain exactly how I'm wrong here?
and now you're about to see a scientist explain to Sandre why JF is right.
He's what he's talking about is mutations in the germ cell line and mutation in the somatic cell line. Like,
oh, you just got explained Richard Dawkins elementary school stuff by a professor, Sandre, and why ultimately you're wrong.
Yes.
Mutations in, yes.
Do you really, really, really think any political correctness in the end is going to win out? No, eventually there's going to be pressure to actually investigate this.
I'm not sure.
And now Sandre is examining his own assumptions about the scientific system, and you have scientists telling him, I don't think you're right.
Wasn't that a case a few months ago where they shut down a study because about say cutting?
Yeah, Sandra. What about the study about cutting the penis? You know, the little excision study?
Well,
wow.
The more important you get as a science guy, the less you are in the lab. Actually, just sit on the computer and plan stuff for other people and look after them so they don't fuck up. So if he means that, he's right.
He's right.
Well, this is true. He is talking not about the quality of the impact. Everything has an impact, as you say, but he's talking about the quantity.
For a complex trait like intelligence, with social factors.
Okay, and now the scientists are like, okay, but Kraut, tell us what was your original statement so we can evaluate whether JF is right. Now Kraut is about to lay out his statement.
And nurturing factors are involved. You can't just merely make the claim of heritability on the basis of Mendelian laws and observation of breeding groups. You have to show the molecular genetic analysis.
And now Kraut is about to be explained that his main thesis of his third and fourth video is wrong by some random papa scientist.
And the process.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm not sure if that's true, Kraut. Yeah, JF is sure, and he's sure that it's not true.
I must say.
Yes, it is.
And Sandre is like, yes, it is. No, it is not, Sandre.
It's something that was explained to us in detail with Jejone. He loves these.
The second
it's
thing...
He keeps hanging up on mistakes in words that I use, doesn't he?
It's like I keep playing with the wrong words that he uses. It's like I'm hung up on all these mistakes. What the fuck is he doing? Let's re-listen to this one. This is gold. This is fucking gold. You cannot write fiction of that level.
He loves these.
The second
it's like
thing...
He keeps hanging up on mistakes in words that I use, doesn't he?
He keeps hanging up on mistakes in a fucking series of video that is titled "The Alt-Right is Too Dumb for Science." Yeah, I will point to all mistakes as long as you keep those titles, Kraut.
Well, and genetics.
I'm word bullying him. I'm bullying him with truth.
Yeah, it's something completely different.
It is. But
not completely, but
I just happened to use the wrong word.
I just happened to use the wrong words. I wasn't wrong. It's my words that were wrong.
Mix something in there, that's it. And he gets completely hung up on it. Fucking idiot. I don't want a you're not a real scientist dick fight now.
No, just let me explain.
Where are you getting this from, Kraut? Jesus.
Oh, Sandre, a little tension with Kraut here. But the scientist that they're talking to is about to explain to them that JF is right again.
Just let me explain. It's okay. The problem with this part is that JF is correct in that you should do that. He's right when he says, that you can show that the correlation is there. You can say, it's 99 point something, but you can still be wrong.
Exactly. That's been my point all along in this.
I mean, how often do we have to repeat this until the people on the internet actually understand this?
How often do we have to repeat it until the people on the internet understand this? Kraut, you've lost your grounding in the internet. My poor Kraut. You're talking like one of these MTV people saying, how the fuck do we win? How the fuck do we win the crowd over?
He's trying to argue, and the thing is, like, he's not incorrect.
He's not incorrect. This is something I noticed with JF. He's not incorrect. So...
This is the thing about JF I notice. He's not incorrect necessarily. It's just the way he phrases things and the way he asks things here. He's trying to lead up to the audience to naturally conclude that yes, race really is a genetic thing because, there are some genetic differences between different populations of people. That is true. Genes do influence intelligence. We just don't know how much, but they do.
Yeah, that was the stuff I was arguing with Sandra about. When your sample size is large enough, your difference can be very small, and statistics will iron that out, and you have statistical tests to prove it.
All right, so here that was it for scientists explaining to Kraut and Sandra, look, JF is right. I'm sorry. And it was quite hilarious. Now we are moving on to a darker part of this video. We will be reviewing the racial slurs that are being used by Kraut, which demonstrate without a doubt that Kraut is a racist. Okay? And these have not been extracted in a way as to change the meaning of the sentences. What you are about to hear is a proof that Kraut is racist in private. He has an opinion of my race, of the French people, as being essentially retarded. And this is very hurtful. So what you're about to hear is...
Let's delve into some responses by the alt-right, shall we?
So what you're about to hear is very shocking. And so if you are sensitive to racial hate, please do not watch the rest of the video. We are about to hear what Kraut really thinks about race and IQ. And it's not beautiful at all. Alright. Let's first watch the part about his intention or his regret that we didn't gas the French. Did he just use epigenetics research again?
Oh, I used the wrong word. Fuck you, Frenchman. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Ability. Chapter 10, one of the biggest and most detailed... Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them. Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Jesus, we should have gassed all of them.
Yeah, it's not even, it's like in the context it's perfectly valid, and the purpose of the paper is not to show anything about molecular genetics anyway. You know, it's not the purpose of the fucking paper.
You try explaining that to French frog. You try explaining that to French frog. You try explaining that to French frog. You try explaining that to French frog.
See, for people who thought, okay, the first was just a meme, Kraut was just memeing, referring to the Second World War and the gassing of Jews. Kraut here is saying, try to explain that to a French frog. This is a sentence that cannot be taken in any other way than to conclude that in Kraut's mind, the French people, my race, what he calls the frogs, and by the way, I'm going to give you a little clue about what frogs mean later. We're going to see what this term means. But for Kraut, the French frog, they are unable to understand. So not only do we have someone who publicly claims that he's making videos about race realism and laughing about race realist, but who's clearly, in the way he speaks in private, he clearly believes in race realism. He believes I'm a French frog and that I have difficulties understanding due to this. He's literally recognizing the race realist position, and even worse. I've talked to race realists who are less racist than Kraut. That's what's happening.
You try explaining that to French frog. You try explaining that to French frog.
You try explaining that to French frog.
Didn't he just said, no, Kraut, you're wrong, he doesn't want the public to decide, and then...
And just in case you weren't sure that these feelings that Kraut has against the French race, the French guy race, okay, because he's not talking about the Jewish French here. He's talking about guys like me, okay? Just in case you were wondering if these feelings about our race were combined to a desire for violence, listen to this one.
Like literally a minute later,
yeah, he just,
I want the public to decide. It's what the fuck are you talking about?
He said with the snails, mon ami. Yeah.
God, I see why we invaded these frogs constantly. They fucking deserve it. Okay.
Kraut. That's what you say.
I see why we invaded these frogs constantly. 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 I see why we invaded these frogs constantly.
I see why we invaded these frogs constantly.
All right. So we've now exposed everything that we could gather of interest in this investigation. The conclusion is clearly that Kraut is a race realist. He is posing as an anti-race realist, but in reality, the view of Kraut of the world is truly grounded in racialism. And there he is posing as an anti-race realist when in private he reveals that there are certain races that he doesn't like. It's just not the same as the other racist, right, Kraut? And to anyone who would like a larger explanation of why does it make sense for Kraut to call me a frog, to have such a despise for the French people, you need to understand why do English people call the French frogs. It's a term that's especially used in anti-Québécois racism, in what they call Quebec bashing. Because a lot of the English people in Canada will call people like me frogs. And what it refers to is the supposed cowardness of the French people. And where this cowardness is often quoted to originate is World War II. Because you see, when people of Kraut's family, because Kraut is partly Jewish, when people of European Jewish families were getting exterminated in Germany during World War II, there were people, like in the UK and the US, willing to go fight Hitler. And then there were people like my grandfather. Frogs. Quebec people. Was my grandfather supportive of Hitler? No. He was not a Nazi. But my grandfather didn't want to participate to World War II. So, because he didn't care who would win. And so the people of Quebec were often considered as frogs, as pea soup, as people who were afraid to join wars. But let me correct the thing here. For Kraut, and for the other who could have heard this false rumor that the Québécois are not good at war and that they are unwilling to participate to wars, my grandfather didn't want to get involved in World War II. Not because he's a cock, not because he's a coward, but because he didn't care if the Jews died. He saw the whole Hitler thing and he said, I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to take side. Alright? So neither was my grandfather a coward, neither was he a Nazi. He was hesitating. And I'm glad that I had this chance to correct the record. Now know that the reason we have a Kraut here going on a quasi-private space, which is really a public space, because there were so many people hearing these racial slurs that we can consider somewhat public. The reason a descendant of the Jews like him would go on the public space and ridicule my people is that he's insulted at what my grandpa did. He's insulted about the fact that there's a people on this earth who wouldn't submit to the control of his people, who wouldn't go serve as cannon fodder to defend his people. And it's not a random thing that this guy is talking of military invasion of France, of the French, of gassing the French. This guy has true racial hatred. And to see this guy then pause against the alt-right as someone who opposes to race realism. Oh, don't worry, Kraut. We have the recording. We know you're not opposed to race realism. You just disagree with Western societies being controlled by white nationalists. Because when you're someone like Kraut, who's partly Jewish, partly German, partly English, you are, in fact, as we've seen in Kraut's tweets, here I was looking at the Kraut tweet history, you are, in fact, opposed to Muslim immigration. See, here Kraut says, good, I hope they kill as many Muslims as they can. And here he says, I know it makes you uncomfortable, but I don't care. I think it's time to make Muslims feel the rage we have built. Now, 1 week ago, if I had read this tweet by Kraut, who says the rage we have built, I might have thought that Kraut is somewhat of a Westerner who's built rage against the Muslim. But now I know that privately, Kraut is a French genocidal, partly Jewish guy who not only hates the Muslims, he hates the guys, and he hates France. He hates the idea of a society that he doesn't have control over. So Kraut, get fixed, come out on the public space and explain what is your position. Be consistent. Please explain to the people of the internet what is your true position on race and what's your position on the French race in particular. As for the others, please join the hashtag with me. Hashtag I'm with the frog. Bye bye.